Cool. Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Welcome to season 4, episode 6. For anyone who doesn't follow my social medias, I will link that down in the description. The reason I say that is I put out a question poll a couple of weeks ago now, asking questions from you guys. People who follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube comments. I gathered a big handful of randomized questions ranging from coaching to lifestyle, opinion, mindset, perspective, absolutely everything. So if you don't follow me, I'll link them both down below. If you're tuning in on Spotify, I appreciate you. I would definitely recommend heading over to YouTube because we did invest in the studio again and it looks fucking amazing. Now let's get into it. There's no range of how long my answers will be. Some of them I'll dive in super deep. Some of them I'm just going to give a surface level straight up answer. I just wanted to start out this episode though with a quote that I've been thinking about recently and something that's very impactful to me. Your outcome in life is directly proportional to the rate of ownership you take over situations that are your fault and aren't your fault. You need to take ownership regardless for something to change. I'm not going to explain anything more about that, so I'm just going to leave that one with you. Okay, you'll notice also something different for everyone that is tuning in on YouTube. I do have my computer. I was getting a little bit over the phone. It felt just a little bit less professional pulling up on my phone, so if there is a big old fucking computer screen in your face, I do apologize for that, but it just feels a little bit better from my perspective. Number 1. What is your biggest achievement of 2024? There is so many different things I could say, but because I spent most of the year traveling Europe, living in Bali, doing things I've never done before, I would have to say my biggest achievement actually ties in with learning to love myself. Now, I know that might sound a little bit cliche, but just hear me out for a moment. Learning to love myself has been something I've been doing for years and years, but it wasn't until this year that things really changed. I mean, really, really changed. Learning to love yourself, you can think of it being accepting your flaws, being okay with how you look, understanding your insecurities, and that is a part of it. What my version of that has been is learning to love myself for all versions I've been, the current version I am, and the version I'm working towards. Interesting with that is I've been highlighted and aware of my past flaws, my negative traits, the things I struggle with, and they haven't just been things I've accepted. I don't think learning to love yourself is accepting the shit things about you. I think it's becoming aware of why you are that way, how it became that you are that way, and what you can do to change that. I've been having a recent conversation with an old friend at the moment on the idea that people always see changes. That's who I used to be. I'm never that person again. I'm a completely new person. But I disagree on that perspective. I think becoming a new person means evolving. The past version of you, whether you struggle with food, with relationships, with communications, monies, negative and toxic traits, they're still part of who you are. I don't think they will ever leave you, and I don't think that version ever leaves you. But you evolve. You learn to work with that version of you. You learn how to manage it and what your triggers are. So that's that. Learning to love myself for all that I am, my goods, my negatives, my past struggles, my projections, my future pathway that I'm going to walk. Number 2, worst trend in the health industry at the moment. And there's also a follow-up question underneath too. I think the worst trend at the moment is coaches marketing what sounds best and enticing. I feel like as humans, the majority of the population want to make changes that are easy, but that seem drastic. So for instance, losing weight. Everyone wants to just be told you can eat the same shitty snacks. You can still go out and party on the weekend. You can still do all these things that you're doing. You just have to increase a little bit more priority, or you just have to step up a little bit more. I don't love that. I don't think major change and weight loss or fitness and health goals has to be completely eradicating the fun and all those good parts in your life. But recently I've been very highly advocating self-respect. And if you're learning to respect yourself and wanting to lose weight, wanting to become healthy, alcohol and consistent binge drinking shouldn't tie in with that. Eating shitty fast food all the time shouldn't tie in with that. Now, that's not to say you can't ever do it. But I just think that the awful or the worst trend in the industry at the moment is coaches knowing what people want to hear and saying that. You know, you can coach with me and still drink alcohol on the weekend. It's like, man, alcohol's a toxin. Why the fuck would you be encouraging that? Or you can coach with me and you can still eat all these fast food. It's like, well, yeah, no shit. But if you're learning to respect yourself, why would you want to? So I just dislike that idea that so many people market what people want to hear. And that's something I struggle with as a coach because I want to see real change for individuals. But who the fuck wants to hear you're overweight because of this role you played in your journey? And until you dig deep enough, sometimes back to your childhood or your teens or school era, things aren't going to change. You have one coach saying that, which if you go down that route, your life will change for the better forever. And then you have another coach saying you can drink alcohol, eat fast food, and lose weight. Of course, everyone's going to go with the second, or majority of people will, which is just fucking awful because as a coach, what's your goal? Is it to make money and to give bullshit information, or is it to change lives? The follow-up question is, what trend do you see building? I think the real change needs real change trend is building at the moment because people are being exposed to humans. And I'm going to take ownership of this, especially in the local vicinity of where my business is based, the South Coast, Wollongong, Sydney. People are starting to see the individuals I work with make insane changes and they want to be a part of that. Or the information that I post on my coaching page or the lifestyle that I live. I think there is, adverse to what I was just saying before, a slow turnaround change where that idea of that drinking and eating shit food and, you know, partying and just going to the gym is starting to reduce a little bit as people become more aware of alcohol and packet foods and whole foods. I do feel like the trend that is building is people understanding that they do want real change, and real change does not come from anything else other than real fucking change. Number 3. Why do you think fitness challenges are so volume successful? Now, I'd take that question volume successful either meaning so many people sign up and do them or they make a lot of money, and it literally stems back to what I just said before. Fitness challenges promise a result with a minimal change to your lifestyle. You can still do XYZ that you're doing, just increase your gym sessions a little bit, just focus on your food a little bit. You can still eat fast food, but lose weight. And it's that really enticing idea. It's only 8 to 12 weeks. Like, who the hell doesn't want to lose weight in 12 weeks? If you have one challenge saying summer shredding into summer, you're going to lose 10 kilos, look the best you've ever looked. That is so enticing to do compared to a coach saying, hey man, it's going to take 6 months, but your life will be changed forever. So I feel like that's why it just plays on that marketing of people not wanting to make real proper change. They just want to change some things. And I hate it. I absolutely advocate against challenges because of that idea that it's not real change. So people invest $800, $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 into something that creates a temporary change. You're in the position you're in because you don't have the level of needed self-respect to be in the position you want to be in. So going to the gym is not going to change that, but learning self-respect will. Hitting your steps is not going to change that, but learning to prioritize will. It's just that idea of it's not the action that changes your life. Yes, it can change your weight, build your muscle, you look good, you look shredded, but I just feel it's very interesting that people only start to care about their self-respect come summertime. And those who have been pushing their self-respect, their priorities, learning boundaries, all those things through winter, autumn, spring, and then summertime comes around, not in order of seasons, by the way. Summertime comes around, they're the ones that are truly killing it because they can walk down the beach and they maybe don't look exactly the way they want to, but they feel the way they want to and they're proud of themselves. And the way you feel about yourself isn't always about how you look. It can be about what you're doing for yourself too. Number 4, what mindset changed your life? The power of choice. When I learned the true power of choice, that changed everything for me. You have a choice in every single situation. That doesn't mean the choices you get to make are always in the favor of what you want, but there is always at least a choice between A and B. And I don't think people understand that wholeheartedly, nor do people want to accept it, because if there's a choice in every situation, there's forced ownership. And again, who wants to be at fault for not being in the position that you want to be in? Number 5, what's one moment in your life you wish you could rewind and replay one more time? Now, for anyone who knows my story, I feel like you would be thinking I'm going to say something to do with my dad, but it's actually not. If I could go back to a time in my life and relive it again, it would be any time that I had society-based innocence. Now, I know that might sound a little bit weird, and I'll explain what that means. What I mean by that is the innocence you have when you don't have the education, where you're in a moment just because of that moment. You're not in that moment thinking of the future or stressing of the past or thinking of another person's opinion or trying to psychoanalyze why they're saying that or thinking of all the outcomes. So it's a throwback to when you're a kid and you're riding, your skateboard or your bike to school. All you're thinking about is doing exactly that, nothing else. Versus if I was to be riding a bike down the street, I would be thinking about work, about conversations I've had, about a podcast I listened to, and all these things. So I feel like any time where I had the innocence of just being in that moment is something that I would actually cherish to be able to live again. Number 6, I currently argue with my partner all the time, and I am told I'm the issue. How can I navigate this? Interesting, because I'm not a relationship coach nor a counselor, but one thing I learned, and especially from my past relationship, is that a lot of couples or a lot of relationships, whether that's friendship, family, or intimate, they see the issue to be the person. They don't see their partner and themselves versus the issue. And that's one thing I learned afterwards. So if I used to have an argument with my past partner about something, I would be arguing against her rather than communicating with her, and it's me and her versus the problem, because the problem isn't the person. It's something that you either feel or you don't like. And if you two work together, you can have an outcome. I feel like a lot of people get comfortable on the idea that they'll blame or they will encapsulate someone to be the problem. Oh, we argue because you do this. It's like, well, no, it can be you two discussing and working out, you don't like this. So I feel like it's that idea, and hopefully that helps, that it's a different perspective to take. It's you and your partner versus the problem, not your partner's the problem or you're the problem. Number 7, an underappreciated life hack. The words you speak. I think that is one of the most impactful actions you can start to become conscious of. Being aware of the words you speak. What you speak is what you think. What you think is how you act. So many people underplay the importance that language has in their life. I'll work with individuals and they'll say, oh, I had a cheat meal. And I'll bring them up and the response is, whatever. I just had a takeout. It's like, no, the language you use in that sentence is so fucking important, because if you're viewing it or saying it's a cheat meal, you're thinking it's a cheat meal, that programs in your brain it's the wrong thing to do, or it's against your routine, or it's against your priorities. And then the actions you take is you're on track when you're eating clean. And then when you have a cheat meal, you're off track. If you spoke it as I had a refeed meal, or I just had a meal out, or I just had a high calorie meal, that instantly connects it's still being a part of your routine, a part of your journey, and you're still on track. Language is massive. Another thing I think that is really important is the way you speak about yourself. So many people, and I know humor is a trauma response. It's easy to laugh through something because it just keeps it lighthearted. One thing I learned is that if you're constantly putting yourself as the butt of the joke, or you're making jokes about yourself, or you're hanging shit of yourself, or you're always laughing at yourself, I think there's a healthy amount where you can make a joke about yourself and laugh and not take things so heavy-hearted. But if you're always bagging yourself out, that solidifies so much lack of self-trust, lack of self-love, lack of self-respect, lack of self-worth. So many things are solidified in a simple thing of laughing at yourself all the time. Now, I don't mean if you make a mistake, you're at fault, you shouldn't laugh at that. What I'm talking about is, and for a client example, I'll have a client say, oh, I went out and I ate because, I'm just a fat ass and, I love eating takeout food. It's like, well, wait a second. That's not funny. And they'll normally say that and laugh afterwards. It's like, that's not funny. Like, you can't speak about yourself that way. Let's reframe that. You're just someone who likes to fucking eat takeout, like as simple as that. And I feel like so much of the language I've spoken about myself, I credit so much to the success I have now. When I stopped bagging myself out, when I stopped devalidating how I felt, when I stopped making myself the issue, when I stopped picking myself apart and started holding a high standard, bringing myself up and elevating the way I spoke about myself, you attract things, more opportunity, better conversations, deeper understanding of yourself. So a long-winded answer to that question, but the words you speak are more important than any action you could take if you're in a position where you want to change something. Number 8, knowing you traveled the world this year, what was one experience, exposure that changed your perspective? Fucking love this question. And there's just so many different things, but the one that stands out to me is the idea of life can change and be what you want it to be. Now, wait a second, because I say this quite a lot and I post about it. But for instance, seeing different social hierarchy or financial status of individuals in different places in the world changed my fucking life. Because back at home, I was working 80 to 90 hours a week. I liked, designer, fast cars, high-rise apartments, expensive dinners and all these things, but I was a lot more sad or a lot more pressure or a lot less fulfilled. Here in Bali, I'll wake up and have, jump on a fucking dingy scooter. I'll go for a $4 breakfast and then I'll walk along the beach. And that for me is so much more fulfilling. Like I'm a lot more happy. I'm a lot more comfortable and satisfied with what my days are. So I feel like that exposure to seeing people living on the street, living in, homemade like tents, living in buildings they put up just on the side of the road, seeing people in Bali even sleeping in vacant shops and all these things. The construction workers here who work for such little money, but they're so happy. I feel like I'm so appreciative and grateful of the exposure to money not being the only successor, or the unit to measure success from. It's been so special because it's changed so many things for me. Like I always had that idea of, driving AMGs and Mercedes and private jets and then, that fast life and all those things. And I still appreciate what it takes to get there and what that can represent, but it's just not my ultimate goal. Like fulfilling conversations, learning myself, healthy, positive relationships, feeling good in the gym, feeling fit, developing my self-respect. It's just, yeah, that truly changed my life this year. Number 9, do you believe in second chances? Super, super interesting question because the perspective from so many people would be different. I feel like second chances are something that can be believed in if there's enough action to show that it's worthwhile. So for instance, I've had people fuck me over in the past, and even if they changed completely now, I wouldn't give them a second chance because it's just not worth it. They don't add the value necessarily to my life. And that second chance just doesn't hold something worthwhile pursuing. To further give insight into that, second chances aren't something you just give someone because they've changed. Someone might really damage you and they change completely. You don't have to automatically give them a second chance. But there's been people in my life over the past 2 years that I've either done wrongdoing to or they've done wrongdoing by me. And I've seen so much fucking change in that individual where the only reason that wrongdoing was happening was because of how they were. And then now how they are is completely different to that. So why would I not give a second chance to experiencing all the positives plus change of development in that person. So I feel like it's a hard question to answer. I just feel like it's very situational specific. Pacific. I was about to talk about the fucking ocean for a second. Number 10. Currently, I'm in a big diet phase. Cows down 1,000 since I started. It's decent. Movement has slightly increased, but progress has slowed down. What can I do? I feel like you should flip your deficit into being more movement. The biggest rebuttal I get on more movement is I don't have time. Then do more movement through intensity. You don't have to go from, if you can only hit 8,000 steps a day, into 15,000. You can jump on a stepper, an air bike, you can swim laps, you can go for a run. I've created this system within my coaching tool belt called ratios, where everything's ratioed from walking. So walking equals X1, and something like the stepper at level 10 equals X2.5. So what that means is you could walk for 10 minutes, but if you jump on the stepper for 10 minutes, it actually deducts 25 minutes from your cardio. Now there's a rough 1,000 steps to 10 minutes of walking. So if you did a little bit of mathematics there, you could increase your movement to be more intense, which would kickstart your deficit. I feel like 1,000 cows is fucking heavy. And if you start to go more and more, you will start to plateau. And there's this system that I don't know what it's actually called, but where your body becomes so efficient, you can be in low cows and start putting weight on or body fat on because you're in just pure survival mode. So I feel like I would bump your cows up maybe 300 and increase your movement quite drastically, but still within the pool range of what you enjoy and what you can consistently have part of your weekly routine, and go from there. I always, as a coach in any fat loss journey, take the route where possible of movement being the deficit creator rather than food. Now, some people need less food because it's how their body is, it's their weekly routine, it's just what they work well with. But if I had the choice, I would always go for movement because movement's easier to manipulate and it's actually easier to burn the little extras. If you take 200 calories off your week, or off your day, sorry, that's 1,400 over the week. That's it. Versus if you add another 2,000 steps, you might do 2,000 steps slow. So that burns 200 a day. You might then do 2,000 steps fast and that burns 250. You might do 2,000 steps going up a hill and that burns 500. So even though it feels like a 1-to-1 ratio where food, 200 calories, steps, 2,000 equals 200 calories, the quality you put in can create a better outcome. Number 11, what range of programming have you done with Future Self Coaching? Now, Future Self Coaching is the highest coaching I offer, and that is all things future self. That is all things looking after your future self. That can stem from work, relationships, gym, fitness, self-respect, education, all those things. Now, I'm not one of those life coaches that will take on a future self client because they're struggling with their relationships. That's not the shit I'm talking about. But we can educate you and make you aware of your role in that, give you ownership, have you understand those better. And that's still a future self thing. So interestingly enough, I've done future self programming from brushing teeth to smoking cigarettes, to reading books over the year, to changing careers, to sticking to your word, to waking up consistent at an alarm. So you can understand all those ideas tie into showing up for your future self. Now, the basis of it is always through fitness, because lifting heavy in the gym builds self-respect and self-belief because you're believing you're capable. Movement, steps, and cardio builds priority because you have to prioritize it. Nutrition is self-respect. So weirdly enough, the actions through fitness can on-flow so much into other parts of your life. So that's why all of the coaching I do, I don't say I'm a life coach. I don't only do one specific thing. A lot of what I do is through the vessel of health and fitness. Number 12, why does your coaching sit at a higher price point? 2 reasons. One, it immediately weeds out those that aren't wanting real change. So I absolutely fucking hate really high coaching containers because it preys on the vulnerable. Some people who say, I invested 15,000 into my business coach. I'm only 5,000. You should be doing what I'm doing. Like, I hate that shit so much. I have a higher price point because it immediately shows to me if someone's 100% ready and wanting to invest in themselves versus those who are wanting to give it a try. That middle range pricing is PT. They're the people who just want to program or just want to make a couple changes. There's other coaches for that. That's not me. That doesn't mean when you start with me, it has to be all in, perfect, massive changes, but it is the differentiation of starting with a fuck yes compared to let's just give it a try. The second reason is it's just the quality of worth I know I bring. The way I think about things, my life experience that I've then dove into to understand situations better, the way I program, the way I understand how a human works, how I understand programming and food and what's important and all these things. I just have a resume of success with amazing people enough to know how impactful I can be. And I just charge at that. I want to be excited to answer messages or to send you back videos or to write a 1,000-word update at the end of the week. So I charge to reflect what's going to be interesting for me, because the more interested I am in the journey, the better it's going to be for us both. So if I reflect exactly what I think I'm worth, not less, not a discount, not, hey, let's do it for $30 or $40 less. Because if I do that, I'm going to put in a $30 or $40 less effort. So that's why I think anyone who signs up with a coach that offers a discount, be careful, because it's actually a disservice to you. Yes, you might save $20. Yes, you might get a couple extra free sessions, but why the fuck's that coach offering a discount if they are good at what they do? Number 13, what's one thing you've never told anyone about yourself? 2 answers I have to this. Number 1, I am absolutely obsessed with cooking. That's my surface level answer. Every time I eat, I always watch cooking videos on YouTube. The only thing I really watch on YouTube is cooking. I wanted to be a chef out of high school until I realized how shit the pay was and how hard it is to be something successful. But I have such a passion for cooking and food and fine dining. The deeper answer that I'm sure you were asking is I struggle to feel proud of myself. Now, that's not a poor guy situation or, I feel bad for you. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but I've always seen my achievements to be an expectation. So when I bought my apartment at 22, pretty much before anyone else my age that I know, I didn't feel necessarily proud, like, holy shit, I've done this. This is amazing. I'm killing it. I worked so hard for this, and post it all on social media and all those things. I kept it quiet. I didn't really tell anyone. And it was just a self-reflection of, yeah, so you should. Like, that's what you do. When you're working hard, you buy a house. Same with the car. It was that thing of, I was too scared to actually post when I bought my Mercedes because I felt nervous that it was going to make other people feel bad. So I actually parked across the road for a few weeks and didn't tell anyone about it. And it wasn't that thing of, fuck yes, I've done this. This is amazing. It was actually, yeah, well, so you should. Now, not feeling proud of myself doesn't mean I struggle to register how hard I work or how amazing the things are that I do, but I struggle to have that feeling of, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to tell everyone. It's more that thing of, yeah, like, so you should, or this is just what you're supposed to do, which is something, I'm working on slowly. I have more proud moments in the small random things, or I get proud of other people when they do amazing things. But with myself, yeah, I would love to post all my successes on my social media. And I've started to do that recently, but that's less of a, oh my God, I'm so proud of myself, and more of an inspiration that, hey, if you knuckle down, this shit's possible. Number 14, have you ever had bad finishes with coaching clients? I've experienced a range of different finishes. I've never had a finish where it's bad necessarily on my terms. Like, I've had finishes where people stop and then there's major projection that comes from them. Or I've had, clients that I've worked with that I absolutely adored and gave my heart and soul to turn their backs on me. I've had clients that I've absolutely done amazing things with then say things about me that weren't, what I would expect, or a little bit of a moment to take a step back. But I've never experienced anything really, really bad. It's just, I guess, when I stopped doing face-to-face PT, there was a few experiences that I felt like, or I was made to feel like I was letting people down, or that I heard that what I was doing was wrong by people but right for me. So like I've definitely had those types of experiences, but I always advocate anyone who stops with me. I'm always like, fuck yes, this is cool, or what are you going to do? Or make sure, you check in with me, tell me what you're achieving, keep me in the loop. Like always try and keep a good relationship. I never am in that weird position of, oh, you're stopping with me, like don't talk to me again. If we've built a rapport over 6 to 12 months where I've seen the darkest parts of you and the best parts of you, and I've helped you through those. Of course, I want to know if you hit a PB, if you decide to work with another coach. Or of course, I want to know you don't do the gym that we worked on, but you're now doing Pilates. Or that you finally bought that house. Like one thing I do credit is a lot of the people I work with that either graduate or move on, I do have great relationships with, or I'm still kept apart. But there's always going to be the outliers, people that stop and then they don't deal with conflict very well. So they're awkward about it, or they just ghost me and those things. Like I've definitely experienced that type of stuff for sure. But the better of a coach I become and the more life experience I become, I always realize that it's not me. Like people will do what they're going to or needing to do because of how they are, and that's okay. Number 15, do you think you have made it? No. I don't. There is so much more that I want to do. Way bigger podcast, way bigger social media, way more of an impact in the world, more lives impacted. Yeah, no, I don't. But for a past version of myself, yes, there is a past version of me, maybe when I was 16 or 17, that this is the made it version. I am online coaching, traveling the world, like I said. I did buy that dream car, like I said. I did get back to that high-rise apartment level living like I wanted to after I first experienced it. So for a past version of me, I'd say I've made it, but for my current version, no way. Number 16, who are the people you look up to and why? I look up to utterly no one. I really, really struggle to idolize another human being because they're just another human being. So I've always seen human beings that are famous to just have, good people skills, or better skills in something, or talents or whatnot. But at the end of the day, they're just another human. Like I've met so many individuals recently with massive followings on social media, and I'm taken back of holy fuck, this is just another human. Or they think things that just I don't agree with, or the way they act is not how you'd expect. Like a social media following doesn't mean shit. And I don't think fame means shit either. Like you see famous people get into scenarios, or they have DUIs, or they end up going to jail, or they're in dramas, or they get divorced or whatnot. Like we're all fucking humans at the end of the day. I can admire and appreciate people, how they live, what they do. And I can definitely see people doing what I want and reflect on, holy shit, it is possible, and I love that. But there's no one that, I'd sit there and fanboy over, or, holy fuck, that person's insane or whatnot. I've just never been able to do it. Maybe it's a repercussion of my dad's scenario, but I feel like, I just see humans to be a human, and that's it. Number 18, best podcast episode you have done and why? I have two. The first one is, of course, episode 1. Because without episode 1, we wouldn't be in season 4, episode 6. I wouldn't have met who I've met. I wouldn't have made the impact I would have. I wouldn't have learnt so many things, had amazing conversations. So that's probably one of my best episodes, personally for me. But also the Alfie episode, that for me was a big step up. I went from a few hundred around that range views into a 1.6K viewed within less than a week, which that was amazing. That was a great conversation. Someone also with a high social media, which kind of elevated the people I want to talk to, or stepped me up to have a little bit of leverage of, hey, I've worked with someone that has a big social media following that was humble enough to do an episode. You have half the amount, would you be interested style. So yeah, I feel like that was a really good episode for the brand and for the progress of what I'm trying to do. But again, one thing I learned is social media following does not dictate quality of convo. Like that episode was great and I loved that convo. But yeah, just someone having a high social media following is not actually the only reason I would go after wanting to do a podcast with them. Number 19, do you think morning people are more successful? I would be biased on it to say yes because I'm a morning person, but the truthful answer is no. The only thing with that is morning people tend to allow for more hours in the day. So those who are up at night normally, now this is just a super generally answered question. Normally the last hours in the day are spent doing unproductive shit. So yes, you might be up for 15 hours, the same as a morning person, but if the last 5 hours is scrolling your phone or watching a movie, you're not going to scroll your phone and watch a movie at 4 or 5 a.m. You're going to get up and do something. So I feel like those who allow for more hours in their day normally are going to be more successful. Because if I'm waking up 3 hours before you and we go to bed around the same time, I'm getting almost a whole extra day on you in a week. So technically, I get 8 days of your style week. And those 3 hours are of pure productivity. So if I'm doing 8 days of pure productivity and you're doing 7 of a mediocre effort, how would I not open up a doorway to be more successful? Number 20, current training split, cardio, steps, and all those details. I'm currently training 6 sessions a week. I don't have a consistent training split. Normally, it would either be a push-pull legs, or recently I mix it up with chest back one day, shoulders, arms the next, and then legs and core. And then I do the other round again and rest on Sundays. I'm walking between 45 to 90 minutes every morning and every night. I don't know my step count on that. Maybe it's around 14 to 16,000. Cardio, I do a little stint here and there. I might go for a run or two over the week. I might do some air bike or some stepper at the end of the session. Calories, I don't track, but I'm having between 2 to 3 meals of pretty much no packet food. It is literally just, it's that typical bodybuilding style, but I've fallen in love with it again, of chicken, rice, green beans, broccoli, eggs, fruit bowls, yogurts, and protein shake. But of course, I think there's 1 or 2 days over the week I'll have a snack where I'll reduce some of my carbohydrate or starches over the day, and I'll either have like some cookies or some donuts or whatnot. They're my 2 probably biggest food vices. 21, what are your personal stats? Height, body weight, whatnot. So 23, 6'2", and 104 kilos. Weirdly enough, it doesn't matter if I'm bulking or if I'm cutting, if I'm looking jacked or if I'm looking skinny, I just sit around that 100 kilo range. I've been in that 100 kilo range for so long. I'll fluctuate maybe down into the high 90s, and that's when I know I'm really cutting. Or if I get into like the 105s, that's when I know I'm gaining, but it's always within that range. I've never gotten back down into the 80s or gone past the 110s or anything like that. Number 22, how can someone learn to be on their own and thrive like you do? Great question, firstly. Secondly, it just takes time. Some people like being on their own if they grew up as an only child. Some people might like being on their own from a traumatic experience. I like being on my own, one, because I like being able to dictate my own schedule and what I do and how I do it, but mainly because I've just learned to become certain things for myself. My own best friend, I can laugh at my own jokes, I can hold myself to a high standard, I can encourage myself to do something, I can call myself out. So I've just learned to be able to do all those things for myself, that it kind of pulls away the need to get that from other people. Now, of course, I still want to have a laugh with a friend or a deep chat with my mum or a friend, or, I'm very social. I see a lot of people at the gym. I work with a lot of clients in calls and text messages and voice memos. So I get a lot of social interaction over the week, but learning to become those things for yourself, holding yourself accountable, your own best friend, your biggest support, your own biggest critic, and those things, it can be an easier way to step into that. But that is not shit that you build overnight. That can take months to years. So if you're interested in it, I'd fucking start it now. Number 23, the last question I'm going to answer. What is the cost of living overseas currently for you? It is drastically different to back home. Paying a mortgage back home, paying $100 to $200 of petrol back at home for a week, $200 to $300 groceries, gym memberships, all those things. My current expenses now, I'm staying at a place that's between $20 to $30 a night. daily housekeeping, pool, all those things, great internet. I rent a scooter, which is $6 a day. Petrol for me is around $7 a week. My meals can be anywhere from $6 to $12. And if I'm having, 2 or 3 of those a day, it doesn't add up much. Protein powder here is half the price for the same thing back at home. Coffee is super cheap. And then there's other just little expenses like, renting out studios or investing in my business. If I'm investing just in myself or my future with stocks or anything along those lines, of course, there are expenses. Then there's tax and whatnot, but I don't pay for a gym, rent, and all those things. So my expenses are drastically different, like incomprehensible levels of different. There were so many questions that were sent in, probably maybe another 1 to 1.5 the amount of what I just answered, but they're the ones I kind of cycled through. I always like to keep the question episodes selective of what I answer, but also a wide range. So that is going to be episode 6. I'm now in Australia again. I don't know how long I'm going to be staying for, if it's going to be for the rest of the year, if I'm going back to what feels like home now, which will be Bali. If you're tuned in on Spotify, I appreciate you. If you tuned in on YouTube, please like the video, leave a comment. If you want to answer any of these, you can send me a personal message or you can leave it down in the comments below. Of course, subscribe. I'll link my social medias down below so you don't miss out on the next chance. I normally do 1 or 2 Q&As per season. So this is season 4. I might do another one towards the end, but I appreciate you tuning in and I will see you in the next one.